Mamas Monday live, where we're going to get candidates. See what I did there, folks?
I see.
Yes, you saw that, Patty. We are going to talk about real representation by women and for women in the Mountain State. And tonight we're joined by Patty Hamilton, and Tina Gray Russell is supposed to be joining us right now. And we're going to talk about their experience running as candidates for office. And Patty, it's so good to have you here. Thank you for joining us this evening. And I did just get a message from Tina, and I'm going to send her the link again so that we can get started. So anyway, so let's start with you just briefly. You ran for office in the 2016
2020.
2020. It seems yesterday, but so long ago. Tell us briefly, what was your experience like?
It started out really exciting, and then, of course, the pandemic and the shutdown changed everything for everyone, not just me. And then I had a personal experience with my husband became very ill, so I was what is known in caregiving circles as the well spouse, and although I had all the responsibility, it really took the wind out of my sails. And sometimes things seem as though they are not meant to be, and that's what it began to feel like. So I lost the primary, and that was fine. I couldn't have handled it had I won, and was so proud of Kayla Young in my district when she was a Mountain Mama who won in our district. So that was great. And so the experience itself, 2020 was so different from any campaign year that it's hard to even compare. My plans had been, a lot of walking. I love to walk, go door to door. Well, those kinds of things didn't happen. And again, I think us maybe technology challenged people. I know you tried to help me, Sarah, but 2020 was difficult for those of us who are baffled by social media. We know what we know, but trying all the new stuff. So that was a difficult thing as well. But it is one area where I found with Mountain Mamas that we helped each other because it was nothing was normal in a campaign in 2020.
No, you're exactly right. And Tina has joined us, and Tina, welcome. Good to see you.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great.
So
great to see you.
Tina, yeah, Patty and I've been chatting, and I want to lead off, and I know, Tina, that your time is limited, so we're going to pivot to you. We were just talking about the 2020 election and how people had to pivot real quickly because of the pandemic. And I want to remind everybody that West Virginia is 50th for the number of women serving in our state legislature. So one more instance where we're at the bottom of the barrel. And it's interesting because there are more women in the state of West Virginia than there are men. So there is not equal representation, and it's critical as we continue to move forward. And so, Tina, you ran for office, and one of the things that Patty was touching on was that we all really did support and help one another in the last election. And even those who didn't win the primary went on to support and help those who did and ended up in the general election. So tell us a little bit about your experience and why you would do it again and why you would encourage other women to join you in that effort.
Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak. And I definitely appreciate all the support I got from Mountain Mamas last time. It was most definitely appreciated. I would definitely encourage folks to run for office. It was my first go around, and I was running against a candidate that was pretty awful. So it was one of those situations where I felt compelled to run. And I think what I would tell anyone running for office is just give it a chance. Don't go into it overthinking it. Give yourself an opportunity to become a better candidate. Don't go in it with any like pie in the sky thinking. Just kind of go in it knowing it's going to be tough. You're going to always have to run like you're behind, even if you think you're ahead.
Mhm.
Always be willing to put in the work. And when you do your pre-candidacy, it does give you some time to make sure you want to do it. So it's a huge commitment to be a pre-candidate. You know what I mean? So I would
Yeah.
encourage anyone to be open to running. I think the worst mistake we can make is to just let races go uncontested. I
Mhm.
think that backfires on us greatly. It looks like we've basically given up.
Mhm.
So I would encourage folks to run. I would also encourage folks to get someone to basically, I hate to say it, but to be their cheerleader. They need a really good campaign manager, or at least someone who's willing to commit to be a volunteer. It's very difficult to run without help. It's very
Mhm.
hard. So I would
Yeah.
encourage everyone to get at least one person to commit to helping them. Someone you can count on, definitely someone you can trust. When it comes to campaign finance, you definitely want someone you can trust dealing with that.
Yeah.
So I would tell everyone, don't be scared away by things like worrying about campaign finance or worrying about the competition. Just run. Just be
Mhm.
open to the possibility of running. I mean, we got great support systems. I'd be happy to help anyone who's interested in running. They can call me anytime. They can instant message me. I've been through the whole process now. I didn't win my election, but I know what it's like to run for office now. So I think at this time, I think one of the best things we can do is work on building our voter base. I think that's where our focus needs to start, and working on messaging to where we really need to kind of, I hate to say it, we need to do a better job of tooting our own horn.
Mhm.
You're exactly right. When you think about West Virginia and the things that have been accomplished in the state, you don't have to look very far to see that women have really been pioneers and leaders since the formation of our state. And so I think that all too often goes overlooked. And let's touch a little bit on pre-candidacy filing, if you
Yeah.
would expand on that a little bit so people can understand the advantage of that.
All you have to do to pre-candidacy file, you can even do it online. You can contact the Secretary of State's office. I believe her name is Missy Kinder. I think that's her name that works out of that office. And you can literally have her email you the pre-candidacy form. It's a one-page form. You can fill it out in 5 minutes. You fill out the form. Some people even start out as undeclared because they're not sure what they
Mhm.
want to run for. The main thing is once you have filed that initial paperwork, and I don't think I paid anything to just do pre-candidacy. Am I correct? I don't think you have to pay to do
That's
pre-candidacy,
right.
do you?
That's right. There's not a filing fee, I
No, I
don't
don't
believe,
think
because
so.
you're
I don't think you
technically
pay.
not
Yeah.
filing, you're
I don't think you
announcing.
pay until you actually decide to officially run in January of next year.
Right.
But once you file you fill out the pre-candidacy form, you can literally scan, email it back to her, and she can certify it and send it back to you through email. It's very convenient. You do not have to drive all the way to Charleston. Back in the day, they used to have to do that. So it's actually really convenient and easy to do the pre-candidacy, and it's very minimal commitment. The good news is once you declare, you can start fundraising.
Right.
And that's key because we really have to start early.
Yeah.
We are up against it. We are the minority party, so we have to raise more money. I wish we didn't. I wish there wasn't so much money in politics. But the truth of the matter is, you got to advertise. You got to be able to do radio. You got to be able to do postcards. All those things require money.
Yeah. Well,
So
and as Patty and I were talking about earlier, the pandemic really did force a lot of people to have to pivot very quickly. And I think one of the things that challenged many candidates was the um, change to virtual, almost virtual everything. And so for those candidates that had been on social media and they were very familiar with it, it really wasn't that big of a deal. But for those who are, we know politics more of one-on-one, going door to door and speaking at events and that type of thing. It's just a whole different ball game. And so, I remember back in the day when you had to go to the Secretary of State's office and file everything there. And so there was positives and negatives about it. But today they do make it easier. And the integration of social media and the internet does allow you to reach a new audience. And with the redistricting that's happening, there's also a new opportunity for women to kind of carve out districts that will not have an incumbent to run against.
I completely agree. And one of the things you definitely want to do initially is get your paperwork done so you can get an account and start fundraising. That is so crucial. I would say over 80% of my fundraising was from online donations, like through Act Blue, or I would put
Right.
my link with my Twitter or my Facebook account. And I bet I got thousands of donations just from those links and those different avenues. So, I mean,
Right.
it's really not good for a candidate to rely on one source for fundraising. You really have to be very varied. You have to really be open to that. Social media, it can be a tool. Don't get me wrong. It can be the Wild West too. We all know that. It can get crazy. It can get nasty. It can get mean, especially when you're running for political office. So you do have to have, some good security systems in place too. But I would say the first thing you're going to want to do is file pre-candidacy, at least file as undeclared, and get you what they call an EIN number so you can set up an account and start fundraising. To me, those are the first things you're going to want to do as a candidate. And then the rest of it we can work on. But you got to start there, in my opinion.
Well, I know you have to go. So in closing, Tina, tell us what was the best part of running and the worst part of running?
I think the best part of running was me realizing how much support I had in a very red district, a very rural district. And I had more support than I thought I did from people that surprised me. I think the thing I would encourage candidates to do is not judge a book by its cover. Don't assume because somebody shows up and they look like a good old boy who wouldn't be interested in supporting you that they don't. Don't assume that. Give that person an opportunity. And even if they don't, have a conversation with them. I had conversations with people with MAGA hats on. You got to start there because, like it or not, we need their votes too.
Yeah.
And so I think the best part was me being pleasantly surprised how much support I got from people that I didn't think I was going to get it from. I think one of the things that was probably the most difficult for me was realizing how steep a hill we have to climb to get back to where we used to be. I think that can be disheartening at times, but I think it's important to leave on an optimistic note. I think that despite the fact that is true, and we do have a long way to go to get back to where Democrats can start winning more seats again, I think the good news is when we had that off-year election in 2018, we actually did have quite a few of our candidates who squeaked through. And I think that showed that there's potential there. Because we had Sammy Brown win, we had some women win in Greenbrier County, and we had a Raleigh County win, and Kanawha. I mean, so we've shown that even in an off-year election, we can pick up some more seats. We just got to keep that momentum going. We just got to believe that we can do this with people who may not be like-minded, but still have those uncomfortable conversations sometimes.
Well, and come to a consensus on some issues. I mean, we're not always necessarily going to agree on everything, but there are things that we all have in common that we want for the state. And so there is common ground to be found. So, so Tina, have you filed your pre-candidacy?
Oh, absolutely. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Well, before we let you go, we are going to show that Dakota Buckley for West Virginia House of Delegates. Welcome, Dakota. We are so glad to have you. Mountain Mamas are truly the winners in West Virginia, standing up for the ones who have felt they've had no voice for so long. We like that, Dakota. Way to go, taking the lead there. Let's see. Drive hope to those who feel there is no hope, and we'll get everyone involved. And Justin Long is joining us today. So Justin, congrats on filing. We'll give shout outs to some guys here that have
Absolutely
filed.
outstanding. Run, run,
Absolutely.
run.
That's right. So, well, Tina, it was so good to see you again. I hope it's not so long before I see you again. And we're going to now pivot over to Patty, where we're going to talk about fundraising. So we'll see you later, Tina.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Tina. Great to see you. Well, Tina gave me a
So
good segue there, talking
she
about
did.
fundraising.
Yeah, and I think that that's honestly probably one of the biggest obstacles or fears that candidates or people who want to run consider the most. So, what would you say to that?
I'd say that it's everybody's fear. I mean, it's don't think you're the only person that hates fundraising. Every candidate hates fundraising, but it is just part of the process. Nobody likes it, but everybody has to do it and do it in different ways. There was an interesting little bill that passed this past session. It follows federal law, which allows some caregiving expenses while a person is campaigning, and it's not restricted by age. It could be childcare, elder care, caring for someone who's ill. That where you have to hire somebody so that you can campaign. So it's a nice little bill, but I think it's a nod to the fact that everybody realizes no matter, you incur personal expenses in order to run for office. So if we didn't have fundraising, only people who could afford it would run for office. So it's a good thing when you look at it that way. It levels the playing field a little bit.
Right. Right.
So I wonder, there's probably the most traditional, tried and true way of fundraising is the good old phone call. And just to confirm this for myself, I just Googled various fundraising things today, and all of them start with calls. I mean, it's nothing new or innovative, but it's the old fashioned working the telephones. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but generally, and when you get up to the big leagues in the United States Senate or House of Representatives, they actually have call time built into their schedules. It's just expected that the senator and the representative will make some calls. People don't want to hear from a staff person or a surrogate for the incumbent. So that is actually built into their schedules. So candidates have to build it into their schedules. And pretty much everything that I've seen, it recommends if you're running an office, try to set aside about 2 hours a day to make phone calls.
I can't tell you how many candidates have said to me, quit telling me so much, because I am pretty adamant. Call time. And if I don't see it on the schedule, it's going to get on the schedule. I don't care what kind of candidate you are. It could be for a municipal, school board, whatever it is, you need that call time. Even if it's not fundraising, it's connecting. So yes. Call time is not just for the members of Congress. It's for all elected officials who want to get, or all candidates who want to get elected.
That's exactly right. There has to be some discipline to it, so that if you set aside 2 hours, you actually do get in a groove sort of thing. You just, mostly you're leaving messages. People don't pick up their phones. It's not near as easy as it used to be because landlines disconnected. Cell phone's hard to get. People don't answer. So you have to develop a really good, clear, concise message. And they do work. And then other means are, of course, emails and text as have added to, I guess, and social media have added to the traditional calling, but they really have not replaced it from what I can see. I checked several different philosophies of fundraising, and it's still the basics. So the telephone call is very important. And again, even leaving a message is a contact. So nothing wrong with that. You have to have a good message.
And I think it's important that the candidates have scripts even if it's just bullet points for when you need to leave a message, that 30-second commercial or that 30-second introduction, or if you actually connect with someone, knowing, how you're, what you're going to be talking about or what you want to hear from that constituent, that possible constituent. So just having something prepared, I think makes you feel more comfortable when you do make those calls.
It's very important. And when I talk about getting in the groove, sometimes you are so used to leaving a message that when a live human being actually answers the phone,
yeah, that's why I said have two scripts available.
I'm talking to a real person now. I'm not just leaving a message. But I always told people whenever you're doing fundraising calls, the voice is important, and it sounds silly, but to smile when you're talking, it does put a different tone in your voice. So that's just a simple little hint. Letters are still effective, but they of course cost the stamp and the stationery and postcards and things like that. But the traditional call, and then texts, online events, social media. But I want to mention a little bit about live events, which was a means of meeting people and fundraising that it just didn't happen in 2020. But the in-person event is important for candidates as well as for incumbents who are candidates. And one thing that's very important, we have incumbents in Mountain Mamas. When you're an incumbent, you're running, it's your year to run, you are a candidate. You have the advantage of being an incumbent, but you are a candidate. So it's important to have a lot of help, as Tina said, have a team, have people you can trust that will help you with these events. And it's really important to remember the goal of the event is to fundraise for your campaign, not to spend it on a lot of food and drinks and entertainment, because you're defeating the purpose of fundraising. And I think people don't expect that, so, some simple food in an inexpensive venue, so that the candidate gets the benefit of the money that you raise, and it doesn't all go to pay the costs of the event. And that is sometimes a big mistake people make. They think it'll get a bigger crowd, and maybe it will, but it costs more than it's worth.
Yeah, it's not enough to offset. I mean,
exactly.
Here's the thing. As a candidate can say, "Hey, you know what? I could put a big spread out for you, or I can actually effectively serve you long term in the legislature." So, while that's great to have a great spread, it's not going to really help you get where you want to go. You have to look at the long game. And you're right. People really don't care about that. They want to know what you stand for. They want to know, they want to hear your message, and they want to connect with you. They want to have a conversation with you. So, keep it simple. Simple.
Yes. Simple, low cost is a good rule of thumb for that. It's also a good idea to set a goal. That's going to change a little bit for several candidates who've run in multi-member districts, which are more expensive than single-member districts, because you don't have as many people to reach now in a single-member district. But a candidate running for the first time probably is clueless about a goal and how much they should raise. That's one of the great things about Mountain Mamas, working with people who have run before. And there are people who know this stuff, who are experienced and can help you set that goal, which is kind of based on what you want to do. I want some yard signs. Maybe I'd like to do some radio, send some postcards. So you have the number of voters you need to reach, but the parties have people who can help you with that. There are people in Mountain Mamas, so you can get that information. You don't have to figure it out all by yourself, but it is good to have a goal. that you want to
Yeah.
reach for your fund, that you know you need to reach to have an effective campaign. And
Right.
as Tina mentioned, some candidates have a finance committee, but I think just a team with you, whether it's finance, just you need that group of supporters as
Right.
well.
Right. A good team is important. And
Yeah.
one of the things that we are working here at Mountain Mamas on is putting together a package that takes some of the work out of, I just shouldn't say it that way, but candidates need support, press releases, media advisories, live streaming, social media, reaching out to the constituents, reaching out to voters. And so one of the things that we're trying to work on and connect with candidates is, what is it that you need so that we can provide or put together a team for you that can provide those elements at an affordable cost. We're not to exceed your fundraising and blow it out of the bank here. That's not the goal. The goal is to get you elected, but you got to have a team in there to get that done. So having a messenger, have someone to help you with fundraising, someone to help you with message, someone to help you with social media, whatever it is that you need. And that is one of the unique things about Mountain Mamas, is that we are very supportive of like-minded candidates who are running for office, and we want to help. We want to be supportive.
And the messaging, as Tina mentioned, is so important. You can't, unfortunately, the world of politics works in sound bites, 3-word phrases, things like that. That if you're making lengthy explanations, you're losing. You're putting people to sleep. So that's just simple messaging is really, really important, and help with that is something a lot of candidates need. So here's what you want to do. Boil it down into a simple message. One thing I wanted to mention, because it's hard to do and everybody hates doing it, you have to hit up your friends and family. I mean, if they're not going to give you money, who else is? So that's and that's a good place to practice, really. So
it is. It is.
Yeah, that's kind of the top of your list. Your family, friends of friends, friends of family, acquaintances, things like that, and then you get into looking at, well, who's historic donors in my district and things like that. Then you're hitting people that you don't know, but the connections that you make with friends and family and friends of family and acquaintances of them, that goes a long way to making people eventually feel more comfortable fundraising.
And with your friends and family, ask for 3 of their friends or family members, or 5, 5 people. So start building that database on top of what you may already have, and start adding to it, and ask them, hey, can you tell me 3 to 5 names of someone that I need to reach out to support my campaign? And people want to share that with you. They are willing to share that with you.
And I think it's so important. If someone gives $5, they've invested in you. You most likely have their vote. It's not a lot of money, not going to buy you a lot of radio ads or anything like that, but it adds up, and that's an investment in you. So that's a really important contribution. So
absolutely.
So you start with the personal. And some people are surprised when they see people on a contribution list to 2 candidates who are opposing each other. But that's sort of what you call the power broker contributors. They're hedging their bets. They'll give to both.
Absolutely.
I was a registered lobbyist for a long time. Lobbyists do that a lot, just to get on both sides, no matter who wins.
They want to make everybody happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Prepare for whoever wins. I remember I was a poor lobbyist one time, Patty. Children and animal welfare, things like that. So I was
the ones that don't pay really well.
No, it doesn't. It's not as glamorous as everyone thinks it is. But you're right.
Well, that's what you call your ideological contributors, that they like your cause.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And so don't discount people who may not vote necessarily typically your party. Some people do want change, and some people will support, like you said, both sides of the aisle, because that's just what they do, because they do have a vested interest in what happens, what laws, what policy takes place at the state legislature. So they're making an investment regardless of who's running. Whoever wins, they're going to be working with that individual. So they want to make sure that they've got that foot in the door before it happens.
Exactly. And also another source of money are those who maybe don't know you that well, you the candidate or you the person, but they don't like your opponent. So they contribute to you because they're anti your opponent. So it's sort of a negative contribution, but it's your contribution counts just as much as
It's
your
money.
friends and family. So
that's right. Well,
yeah,
and Tina's a great example of that. I mean, she had a lot of really great support, but the guy she was running with was also really not liked.
yes, exactly.
He became very familiar as he served, and people became quickly aware of he was not exactly the kind of person they wanted representing them. So
that's exactly right. So yeah, that's a really good. I hadn't thought of that. Tina had a really good
Oh, we froze. Patty has
example
frozen.
of that kind of. Oh, you froze. We both froze.
Oh, I froze. Okay, I think we're
both for a
minute.
Okay, are we both unfrozen now?
I think we're both unfrozen. So, and
I just wanted to make one more quick point, and I would mention that every candidate should have a treasurer to help them keep track of.
Well, aren't you required to?
Well, yes, but a real treasurer, somebody who will really do it, not just a name.
Right,
a working treasurer who will.
Yeah, someone who knows and understands campaign finance.
Yes,
and they can learn it. It's not super complicated, but you don't want to run afoul of campaign finance problems.
No. So
not something you want to do.
An actual treasurer who if they don't know it, they'll learn campaign finance law, and that way that's just something the candidate doesn't have to worry about. So that's the last point I wanted to make. You can do entire day long seminars on fundraising, so we kind of just hit the highlights here, the highlights and the lowlights of fundraising.
Well, and we are so an organization that I'm working with, we are going to be putting on a series of seminars talking about messaging, talking about fundraising, and we'll be having guests that join us and talking about, and some of these will be closed feeds. They're not going to be live like this is. It's going to be more of a closed group of people so that there's open communication and questions can be asked freely and openly for everyone to learn in that process. So we will be, providing that information as we go along. And again, we see here Mountain Mamas, we're going to be going live again in December. But if you're interested in working with us, just contact us through Messenger. We're here to help. And as we say, we're ready to walk beside you from pre-candidacy through the election day. And so watch our Facebook and other social media for the live stream announcements. And even after election, one of the things that we can help you with is understanding the legislative process so that when you do walk into that Capitol, you're going to feel confident in your abilities right from the start. So, Patty, any final words for the good of the order?
Well, I just want to go back to one of your opening statements, which is we'd love to not be 50th in the proportion of our representation of women in the legislature. So I would say that is the number one goal of Mountain Mamas, is to get forward-thinking women in the legislature, because we are 50th.
Yeah, and we need everyone to be represented. And you're exactly right. We are 50th in too many things, and this is and it's just not acceptable. We have to have better representation. So on that note, I'm sorry.
West Virginia women are actually 51% of the population.
Exactly. That there's more of us here in the state of West Virginia. And if we're frank about it, we're caretakers, we're mothers, we're business owners, and we need to have representation across the spectrum in all of those areas that impact our lives. And
Exactly.
so that's why it's so important and so critical for women to step up and say, you know, I'm going to take on this challenge. And so we encourage you, if you're thinking about it, get that pre-candidacy paperwork filed. If you have questions, again, reach out to us on Messenger. We'll be happy to answer your questions. And Patty, thank you again for your wealth of knowledge and for your willingness to help shepherd people through this process. And look forward to having you again on soon. And until then, everyone, we will see you on the next edition of Mountain Mamas. And again, just be ready check our social media and be ready and check those dates and join us then. So
Thank you
see
so
you
much,
later.
Sarah. Bye.
All right. Thank you.